Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. We will continue the topic of basic programming concepts. We will start with how do we access different elements in a data frame using lock and iLock functions. Okay, so the lock function can be used to access elements by passing the title for the column and the label for the row, but iLock is used when you pass the integer indices of the columns and the rows. We will look at this. Okay, let's start with this example here. We load this data frame. Okay, so this is so we load this file and we create a data frame from this. For now, by now we know like what's the output of this line and the display. So we have already explained those. So now we are reading from this CSV file. We're reading the data of that file and we are creating a data frame from that. We are displaying here the data frame. As you can see, we have 3 attributes or columns and we have a number of records. Okay. So I added this here. Let me, we'll skip this. We're gonna see it again later after okay, so where is no, I think, okay, I have done some changes, that's why. Okay, so let me take this, copy this from here and put it here. Okay, yes. Now look at this data frame here. Okay, so if we want to access a specific element, let's say this element here, okay, for this element, we can use the log function. We pass the label of that column, as we can see for the column place here. We're passing the label for that column, and we pass the index because there are no, we pass the title for that column. This is the title. And since these records are not labeled, okay, we have only the default indices, then we pass the index of that element for the row, okay? So this element is in this column, the job type column. So in the column place here, we don't pass the index of that column. The index of that column is 1, right? Because the first column has index 0, the second column has index 1. We are using the function lock, so we pass the label, not the index. We pass the label or the title, sorry. We use label for the records and title for the columns. Okay, let's stick with these definitions. So we pass the title of that column, okay, for the column in the place of the column index, and for the row index, since we don't have labels, we pass the index of that element, and the index of that element in the row axis is 1. Okay, so df.lock, we call the pandas built-in function lock, and we pass the index for the row and the title for the column, and we retrieve that one, which is this one. If I pass the index, the integer index, and I'm using the function lock, then we will run into an error. Okay, so we get an error. So for lock, you pass the title, okay? The title for the column or the label for the index if we have the label. Okay, so now let's do the same thing with iLock. Okay, so if we want to access the same element, this element, using iLock, so for iLock, we need to pass the exact index, integer index, and that has an index of what? 1 and 1, right? It's in the second row, second column. So it has the index of 1, 1. Okay. So that's it. Here, get the same result. That's accessing a single element. Now let's look into slicing. Okay. So you remember, slicing is extracting a part of the data frame. Okay. It doesn't need to be continuous. Okay. It could be continuous or non-continuous, discontinuous. Okay. So we start by how do we extract a single column? In fact, there are different ways to extract a single column. Okay. We can use this function in df dot and we pass the column name, or we can use df of the column name. So df, and then we pass the column name inside the brackets, okay? And there are also other ways to access the single column. We can actually use lock and ilock, as we will see later, okay? Let's load this file here. Okay, this is, we have 17 features here, okay? So these are different ways to access the content of C1, okay? So as we explained it in the cell before this, so we can do df of, and we pass the title of that column, okay? We also can do, we can call the function ilock. If we call the function ilock, then we need to pass the integer index, okay? We need to pass the integer indices for both the rows and the columns. And since we are extracting all the elements of the first column, then in the row index, we pass, in the axis 0, or the row index, we pass colon, and in the column index, we pass 0, because we want to extract all attributes of the first column. Okay, that's another way to do it. We can also, since we have titles here for the columns, we can use the lock function, okay? And instead of passing the index of that column, the integer index of that column, we pass the title of that column, C1. So all these can do the same thing. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so each one of them. So as you can see, so in the printout here, we are printing the index and the value, okay, for each element in that column, okay? Okay, so this one here, okay, let me just comment this. Okay, this part here is not related to the slicing. We can take it at a practice, but I will explain at very high level, okay, here, since it's already here in the cell. Here, if I don't have names, assume like there are no titles for these columns, then you can create titles. Assume like the file itself, okay, the file itself doesn't have, like, there is no titles in the first row, so it starts from this row here, from the data, and you want to create those labels, C1 to C17. You remember we talked about the function join, okay, in the topic of Python review. So simply, you have to define a string here, and then by calling the function join, okay, you will actually insert this string here between each two elements here. You're passing two elements here, the first element, comma, the second element, okay? And since here, this string has nothing, then it's just gonna join these two, okay? And we are doing that for I in range 1 to 17. So we are generating 17 elements, okay? Then the return will be a list, okay? It has 17 elements. Each element is just a join between whatever here in the, we pass in the first element here in this, inside these two brackets, and the second element. So simply the first element is just C, and the second element is what? So the second element, we are generating integer numbers from 0 to 16, and for each number we are adding 1. So we're going to start from 1 all the way to 17. So the first element in the list will be C1, C2, C3, all the way to C17. So we generated these names. Then I can, when I read the file, I pass header equal none, because there were no headers, there were no titles in the file in the first row. And then I pass my names, the names I just defined. Then I'm creating these names, okay? And I think we did this last time. But yeah, let me just show you the printout of this. You see, these are the titles. Then you can pass them as the titles when you call the function CSV read, okay? Read underscore CSV, sorry, or Excel, or whatever. Okay, so now we go to slicing via lock, so not extracting a single column, any slice, okay? Let's load this file, okay? And here, let's look at, like, for example, if I'm interested in the columns from C2 to C5, okay? Then, and the first 9 records, okay? 10 records, first 10 records. Then I call the function lock, okay? So these are the first 10 records, and these are the columns from C2 to C5, okay? Now, for lock function, the ending is also inclusive. Okay, so like that's the difference between lock and ilock. Okay, if you're using the function lock, then the ending is included. Okay, so this will extract 10 rows from zero all the way from row with index 0, okay, all the way to the row with index 9. That is included. This will be retrieved. And same applies here for the columns. It's from C2 all the way to C5. So C2 is included and C5 is included. Okay, if I do the same here, okay, C2 has index 1 here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this has index 4. Now, this will not give me the same output as this one. Okay, though both are from 0 to 9 and both are referring to the same columns at the starting and the ending. Why? Because for ilock, for integer lock, the one that uses the integer indices, the ending is not included. So the last element is not included. So 9 here will not be included. Okay, and the same here for 4. 4, it's not going to be included, the column with index 4. So it's going to take the column with index 1, 2, and 3. That's it. 4 is not included. So if we do print out this, let's look at them. You'll see different outputs. Okay, this is for the first one, for the look function. So the 4 columns from C2 to C5, including C2 and C5, and all the 10 records from 0 to 9, including the record 9. If you look at this one, where we use the integer indexing, so now this is exclusive, okay, and this is exclusive, so they are not included. So it goes from for the rows, it goes from 0 to 8, okay, 0 to 8, and from for the columns, it goes from 1 to 3. With the one with index 1, not 1, the second one. The one with index 1 to the one with index 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, because this has index 1, 2, 3. So the fourth one is not included. So if I want to match this output here, so if I want to extract from C2 to C5 and the first 10 records, then here we need to add 1, right? Then they are extracting the same elements. Okay, by default the step size is equal to 1 if I don't pass a step size, if I don't pass a third element here after a third column. So we don't include it here because we are extracting every column. Now if I have a specific step size, then I need to pass it. For example, here the step size is equal to 2. That means go from the record with index 0 in the row axis all the way to the one with index 9. So the first so 1 is here, look, 1 is included, sorry, the ending is included. So go from the one with index 0 to the one with index 9. So from the first record to the 10 record with a step size of 2. So include every other record. So you're going to skip 1 every time. So this is going to go from the first record to the 10th record and skipping, like including every other record. Okay. So the same thing here, go from the column with title C2 to the column with title C5, but consider every other column. Okay, skip one column at a time. So then what do you expect to see here? Let's look at the records, at the columns, sorry. For the columns, then we will include C2 and C4, right? That's it, because the step size is 2. C2, we're going to skip C3, we're going to go to C4. And then if we skip C5, then we go to out of the range. So then that's it. C4 will be the last column. The same thing applies here. So you're going to go from the first record 0 to 4 all the way to the record with index 8. Okay. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Now let's do it with iLook. It's the same thing. Okay. So if we want, for example, to extract a specific like for example, this one. So from the first row all the way to the row with index 9, 10 will not be included because we are using iLook here. So it's going to go from row with index 0 all the way to the row with index 9, the first 10 rows. And it's going to go from the first column all the way to the fourth column. Okay, so it's going to include the first 5 columns. Okay, so we run this. This is what we get. Yeah, from 0 all the way to 9, and from 1 we are skipping the first column, C1, from column with index 1 all the way to column to the fourth to the one with index 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So here it's if we call look, okay, if we want to consider the first 2, now this is going from 0 to 2, so 2 is included, so we're going to extract the first 3 rows, okay, and the first 3 columns, right? Because C4 will be included, and the row with index 2 will also be included, okay? Yes, that's another example. So from 0, this is iLook. If we do this with iLook, 2 will not, the one with index 2 will not be included, so we're extracting the first 2 rows, and from 0 to 3, it will be the first 3 columns, the column with index 0, the column with index 1, and the column with index 2. So C1, C2, C3. That's it. Okay. Okay. Now, yeah, here is kind of like a summary. Okay, so if we build this data frame, now we have now this is a 2D list. Okay, so we're passing labels to the rows and we're passing titles to the columns. Okay, so we can display the whole data frame. We can extract, we've explained all this, but let's just go over this example. So we can extract the content of the first column, okay, all attributes of the first column by calling the function look. So we pass colon here and we pass the title of the column here. We can also do it this way, right? We talked about this. The if of column 1, that's specifically for the columns. We cannot do this for the rows, okay? We can't pass the label of a row here. The if of this should be a title of a specific column. We can also, this is for the second column. We can also do it this way. The if dot call 1, okay? So space will not, will create an error, okay? So you need to make sure you don't have spaces or special characters in your namings, okay? Display the if dot column 1. You can also, if you use look, you can also pass labels of the rows, okay? This is a row label, okay? So we are extracting all elements of the set of row 2. Row 2 is the second row, the title of the second row here. Okay. This is the same thing. I think this is meant to be something else. Anyways, so these are different examples. If we do this, we'll get an error, the if of row 2, because for this one, what we pass inside should be a column. It cannot be, should be a title of a column. It cannot be a label of a row. Okay, we will run that later and see the error. Okay. Okay, this is all this with lock. Okay. Let me comment out this since it's the same thing. Okay. Here, we can also do it with iLook, right? Then we need to pass integer indices. So if we are interested in the all attributes of the first column, then colon comma 0, right? This is what we pass. We already explained this. Okay. So if we are interested in a specific element, as I said, we can use iLook 1, 0. We also can use look and we pass the label. We can also do it this way, right? Let me do it here. We can also do display dot look and pass row. Was that row 0? What was the index? Okay, 1. So then row 2 and the first column, which is called 1. Okay. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? Yeah, we need to put this inside brackets. Okay. we have an error here. Let me see what error is that. Okay, call one. Okay, yeah, because we don't have a space there. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you can look at this and go back and check each one of them. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I give you a good amount of time focusing on this, then you can go back and check yourself. You can practice. Okay. If we run this, let me show you this. If we run this, this one here, okay, this one, we will get an error. Let me do it in a separate cell. Yes, because here it should be a column. I can extract a column using this uh, format, but not, I can extract the content of a column, not a row. Okay. Okay. With that, we come to the end of this lecture. We will stop here and see you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.